Good morning. You know what? I'm blessing this water right now and turning it into holy water. I believe, and I'm not kidding you. I'm spreading it everywhere. Get on out of here, Cletus. I'm telling you what. You know those days when you know that he needs to be shaming himself. And I'm talking about. Good morning, first of all. Good morning, beautiful. Yeah, you're in the right place. It is Bathrobe Moments. I am Loren Michaels Harris, but I'm getting ready to kick some spiritual booty. Because you know, when you got something good going on, you got a great message. The enemy, whatever you believe in, the forces, whatever, will get up and have the nerve. They don't even try to be sneaky anymore. Just come walking all up. No, first thing this morning, I can find my wedding rings. I always put them on before I do a show. So I was like, okay, I know who's behind this. Cletus. And right. I mean, it says Jesus loves you right in the promo. So you know I forget he still get pissed off over stuff. He has no control over the enemy. So anyway, I'm rebuking it. We moving forward. Then my guest, Philip, was having trouble. It wouldn't let him in the green room, all these things. And you know what? A lot of people let those things frustrate you. Here's our first learning moment, teaching moment of the week, of the day. And it's something we should never forget any day of any week. When you get up and you are moving forward, putting your best foot forward, the enemy is going to put something in front of that foot. He's going to put something in front of the other foot. He's going to try to knock you down to see if you know how to get back up. He's going to try to sew your lips shut so you won't talk about the good news. He's going to try anything in his power. And remember this, people. Remember this. I know this to be true. That enemy, who I call him Cletus, he has to get permission to test us. He has to go to the Father and ask for permission. Can I test Loren this morning? Because there was a time some stuff like this happened. I'd have been walking around here cussing up a storm. That's how Bathrobe Moments came to be born, because I asked for something early in the morning. I'm telling y'all what I know. We're all starting off this week. We're all living under an umbrella of something that is different than it has been at any time in history. And that's a lot of why my guest is here today and his message. So I'm just saying, now I need you guys to send lots of love, light, and high energy, positive energy, just out, not just to me, but out today, because we need it. We don't want anyone who needs to hear this message to not hear it. We need this to be able to be shared out to as many places as possible, and we need it to be anointed long after we close out the show 1 hour from now. So I want you to do that. Whatever type of believer you are, use what you know works. Because what we're talking about here today is real, and it needs real people to help make a change. So there you go. I got that out. Oh, let me just stop. That's right, because I don't want to give too much credit. Not credit, but too much floor time, or you know who I'm talking about. Let me get this out of here. I'm here. How was your weekend? We had a good weekend, Brian and I. Stayed. What did we do? Oh, we stayed home. He had a lot of work. And so I actually ran up to Michigan and checked on my nephew's restaurant to see. I go up every year, a couple of weeks after they open, to give him some feedback. It was great. They had more patrons that they could handle because they're on reservations only. So a few people were pissed off when they had to leave because they didn't have a reservation. But overall, it was a great trip. Saw family, celebrated a couple birthdays. One of our nephews graduated from high school in the last couple of weeks. Celebrated that. It was really nice. Family first, y'all. Family first. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys, in case you missed it. I tried to load it here with my show stuff, but again, Cletus is, you know what, wouldn't cooperate. So I said, okay, I'll just put it up on my YouTube channel and let people see. I want you to see inside, so and then we're gonna get our guest in here this morning. I'm gonna let you peek inside of the promo. You most likely saw it, maybe you didn't, but I'm gonna share the screen because it's got some real pictures and stuff, some real footage from our guest and this wonderful, wonderful, I don't know what you call it. It's more than a mission, because we should have been doing it. And a lot of people have, but Love Offering Chicago and Philip Brown. Let's take a look. Okay, there's a little peek into what they've been doing around the Chicagoland area. Now, when I say they, I mean uh, Philip Brown, who is a florist extraordinaire here in the Chicagoland area. He and I have met before. You may remember him from one of my specials, one of my shows where I had wedding industry professionals on the screen, and Philip was one of those representing the floral industry. And anyway, he's taken it upon himself. I got the call from our dear friend, our mutual friend, Shara Stan, over at the Stan Mansion, and she said, "Have you heard what is going on with Philip and Love Offer Chicago?" I was like, "No," and so she hooked me up, and I'm glad she did. So listen, let's get him in here. I know that he's somewhere in the building. Has anyone seen Philip? Is he? I hope he put some flowers in somewhere in this house. Well, good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Loren. Man, do you have a way of brightening people's days? You are so funny. And it was hilarious how,
Hey,
we had that little technical difficulty, and I just said within myself, this is going to happen no matter how it needs to come about. So I'm not going
right
to stress about it. And here we are.
here we
Thank you
are.
so much for having me.
Oh, you know, I'm really excited. I can't even tell you. I know you don't know the half of it, but I really, really am. Usually I put a little thing up, maybe 10, 15-second promo for
Uh-huh.
whoever's going to be on the show. But I wanted to do something a little deeper, a little broader. And I want you to know this too. I'm going to go back to that promo, remove all of the bathrobe moment elements, and put anything else you want in it, and shoot it back to you so that you can
Thank
use it
you.
ongoingly on your social media. And when you show other people what you're trying to do, know what you are doing in order to get more people involved. So you got that coming. I'll get that to you later today.
Thank you. That is so kind.
So say hello to the audience out there. Some of these people know who you are, but perhaps some of them don't. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do or in your ordinary life, and then we'll get started on how this Love Offering Chicago came about and why it chose you and you chose in return.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to personally thank you for taking the time to tune in to Bathrobe Moments and, hearing this wonderful opportunity that I've been given. By day and night, I am a florist. I work for Juliet Tan Floral Design, who is a wonderful person and a great friend. And it's a great opportunity for me to be able to express myself artistically. But the thing that I love the most about what I do as far as a profession is that I'm able to assist and help people deliver their vision. So
Mm.
that is the heart of actually what I'm about. And that's how Love Offering came about. It's, the ability to be able to assist people where they're at.
Well, the first thing I loved about Love Offering is it starts with the greatest force on the planet, on in the universe, and that is love. And a love offering, because I'm a musician, and I remember back in the day, when I was trying to get booked to places,
Yeah,
start with churches, and they were like,
right.
"Well, we don't pay people, but we can take up a love offering." And I was like, "You can?" And I would tell you something. Even now, like if I speak from to a church or something, I would say, "Oh, just if you want to, you can." Those love offerings never surprise you. You always get more than you bargained for in a good way.
always. And you know why, Lauren? It's because the people that are contributing to those love offerings, whether it's church or, anything, it
Mm-hmm.
comes from the heart. And that heart
Mm-hmm.
is all about love. And when you do things from your heart and with love, it's always more than you can ever expect.
Exactly, exactly. Now I got so many questions about the
Sure.
situation and that you're dealing with, and I also have a couple questions about what we were looking at, some of
Okay.
the things we saw inside the promo piece, and then because here's the deal, we
Hmm.
all think we know about homelessness, and I said in my post, I've been homeless, and I know there are more of us than we could shake a stick at that have too, whether we acknowledge it or see it as that. If you've ever had to sleep on somebody's couch,
Yeah.
you were homeless. If you had to pay a hotel to stay there just for a week in between,
Yes.
you were homeless. I don't
Yes.
care if it's because the paint wasn't dry on the new apartment. In between there was no place for somebody to come up and say, "Here's your mail." That's if you don't have an address at that moment, you are homeless. And during the making of that promo piece, the inspiration for the line, which came, I heard it for the first time when I was typing it out, and that was the homeless always have to call someplace home.
Right.
And you know what reminded me of that? When I was listening to one of the other clips, and you were explaining why you guys are cleaning up the trash and getting
Hmm.
the trash out of there. That's something we're so used to thinking. When you think homeless, the person sleeping. I use some of those
Hmm.
images on purpose because I knew that's what we expected to see: sleeping on a bench, holding up a sign. But you never get the peek inside their homeland,
Hmm.
those areas. I've seen some people do some things on Facebook where they actually go there during COVID. So tell us about that. How did you already know this area? Do you drive past it every day? How did you find your way to these particular people in this particular section of the city?
Okay, so this particular section that you're referring to is quite close to my home. I drove by many times, and I cannot speak for the audience. I'll speak for myself.
Mhm.
I've always had a heart to give, and I would give change, dollars, whatever was in my pocket, but that was the extent of it. So when I drove by, I looked and I said, "Oh gosh, that's really unfortunate." But I never really asked myself, "What can I do about it?" I thought giving change
Hi, honey.
and giving a couple of dollars was good enough. And in many cases, that's a wonderful gift. But for me personally, I I was just called one day to stop, and I had a $20 bill. It was all I had, and I saw these people that were behind. They had built themselves sort of a little home that was boarded off with mattresses and things of that nature,
Mhm.
and there were four people behind there. And I stopped and I said, "Listen, this is all I have. You'll need to share it, and hopefully that you'll be able to get something warm to eat." And I had an opportunity to talk to one of the gentlemen, and he shared a little bit of his story, and it touched my heart. And I was already being dealt with, doing something from God about helping the homeless, and that, taking my desire and his will a little bit further. So that's really how it started in this particular area. You talk about it's a home, and it is a home. These When I went out to help them pick up the trash, I stopped with some water, and they said, "Listen, we've been praying." And I didn't bring it up. One lady just told me, "I've been praying, and I prayed that someone would come with water because we're so dehydrated and we have nowhere to get it." She said, "Do
Mhm.
you think it's at all possible that you can get some contractor bags?" And that's how it started. We want to clean up our area where we live,
Mm.
and we want to have pride in where we're at. We want to be able to stay here, which is under a viaduct in a public area on a public sidewalk. We want to be able to stay here because this is our home and we have nowhere else to go. And I made that happen for them, and I dug in. I think it's really important for myself to show them that I'm willing to get into the trenches with them and help them, discover solutions. And she said to me, a tent was provided for her and her boyfriend through
Hmm.
prayer miraculously. And
Now, are these the two we saw in the clip?
yes, that's
Okay.
they've given me permission to share their picture and their information and their story, but that's
Okay.
Willie and Trish.
Okay.
And one day he had asked for a tent, and I said, let's pray about it, and we did. I drove off. Not even 2 seconds later, a friend contacted me. I told her the story. She made it happen in 5 hours. But the point, getting back to the point, is that she told me that that tent is like a 1 bedroom apartment to them. Loren, can you imagine? What a blessing to them. But to me, it struck a chord in my heart because, I'm fortunate to have a roof over my head with 4 walls.
Mhm.
And they are not as fortunate and so appreciative of something like a tent and the ability to clean up their area and the garbage that had been there for months. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I'm feeling some kind of way right now. Um,
Yeah.
well, let me tell you what's going on. And you guys know, oh my goodness. Oh, there's
Let
see,
it out.
this is how this is how I know not every word has been invented. Because when people say, "Oh, I'm speechless. I can't find the words." That's not just something. That's really something. Um, I was sitting here thinking about the one time where I was trying to say, well, when you were describing it all? And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, because I was homeless several times, but there's one night in particular, and that stands out in my mind. And it was because there was no place. It had dropped almost to below zero, and I wasn't dressed properly. I had a hoodie. That was all I had, and there was no place. I don't know that instinctual thing about finding like what you were talking about. And I was in a rural area and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And I found an abandoned car. And I remember I was able to get into it and in the back seat and how grateful, how warm it felt. And when I was finally able to drift off to a few hours of sleep, my hand fell off the seat. I was in the back seat and went down into the behind the driver's side, on the floor. And I went to sleep and I woke up and my hand was numb. And I thought it was just from going to sleep, but it was actually I there had been water on the floor. It had frozen. That's how
Oh my
cold it was.
gosh.
And my knuckles and
Wow.
stuff were stuck to it. Right. So I was like, oh my God. And I got up that day and I went to a church because that was back in the drug addiction days. I went to a
Hmm.
church and that was the very first time I told the truth about my situation. And that was the first step that led to the second step that led to the next step that led to today.
Right.
So I thank you for reminding me of that because I haven't thought about that particular night in a long, long time. And so I want to use that little story right there to hopefully segue into a part of this story of your mission that a lot of us don't get to hear. I said, we see those visuals that I showed, people sleeping on benches, holding signs, this sort of thing. And a lot of us start judging. Okay, even if you want to give, you may have a 1 and a 5, and you think, well, I'm not giving them a 5. I'll give them this 1. Or you see quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies in the change thing in your car or
Hmm.
wherever. You say, well, I'm keeping my quarters. I know because I've been that way. And if I can be that way, and I just told you how, I slept in the back of the car once, I can only imagine how difficult that choice may be for people who have never even come close to it. So, Philip, tell us when you go down there, what's the difference from just handing someone a coin or a dollar bill and standing there and actually hearing their story?
Well, you bring up a good point about judgment. I, I'm going to tell you something very quickly. When I was 16, uh, my grandmother took me down to downtown Los Angeles, California, to what they call Skid Row. And she
Mm-hmm.
said, I want to take you to go feed the homeless for, I think it was Thanksgiving. And in my mind, I thought, oh, really? Do I have to, like, what am I going to be able to do to make a difference. And I had a pre-notion of what their life was like and
Mhm.
why it was that way. And that experience changed me. It set a seed. It set a seed in me about, not having judgment. And it's really important that when we as people, look to, like we talked about giving, we've got to give it wholeheartedly without thinking about, is it going to go to this? Or are they going to use it for that? And, what have you.
Yeah. I had someone, those oases that you
Hmm.
stop at on the highway, and
Yeah.
that happened to me where I went in and asked for change because I don't usually carry cash too much, but I had a 20 and I asked for change, because unlike you, I'll give 5, but I give no 20. I'm just kidding. That guy's still working on me. Don't judge. And anyway, um, and the woman at the Popeyes where I was trying to get change was like, "You ain't getting ready to get that change to him out there, are you?" She really, I mean, she spent like 10 minutes trying to talk me out of it.
You know what, Lauren? I'm glad that you mentioned that because I want to say something. People are entitled to their opinions, and sometimes their opinions come from not knowing about something, and it comes from fear that they may be there or they may not know, or that what someone else is doing does not necessarily agree with their beliefs. I went yesterday, or a couple of days ago, to a local discount store where they sell underwear and socks, because
Hmm.
one place that I had went, the guy said to me, "I hate to ask you, do you have any socks and underwear?" I didn't. So, I went to find something that was appropriate and cost effective, and the lady said to me, "I hope," I was sharing my mission, and she said, "I hope you're only going to give one pair of underwear, because these people take the rest and sell it for what they need." And I said, I want to thank you for your opinion. And that may be your experience, but unfortunately, it's not mine. And I moved on. So, it's people are going to say things, that they may not necessarily agree with what someone's doing. We have to follow what's in our heart and what we've
Hmm.
been given and use our
Hmm.
talents. And when we do that wholeheartedly, you can't go wrong. So you can't let, the naysayers affect it.
I agree. That's the bell of purpose, y'all. And when you hear that bell ring, it means that our guest, or either you out there, have left something in the comments, or our guest has said something that we really need to stop for a moment, just stop dead in the intersection, take a look in all directions. This may just be something that you want to drop something else down, put something else down in order to pick what you heard up. Think about that. So, Philip,
Hmm.
tell us about the people. So you have a face and a name, couple names. Let's just go with the two that you've used, Trish
Willie.
and Willie.
Hmm.
When you put a name on it, when you're up close and personal, I would have to say that it's kind of difficult not to have a different kind of experience, right or wrong.
Right. You are absolutely right. It's a,
So,
it's a personal connection at that point.
right, because then I'm sure they've like shared their stories, and a lot of
They
people might
absolutely
be
have.
surprised when they find out that a lot of these people that are homeless are no different than us, and that they didn't just give up or not care. A lot of people we hear are one paycheck or less away from being homeless, and this pandemic actually proved it to a lot of us because we got a lot of calls, we heard a lot of stories about and saw them all on social media. I saw a woman who had been a vice president of a company just a couple weeks before saying that she was one paycheck away from losing her house.
It's very unfortunate. There are five top causes of why people are homeless, and the first is lack of affordable housing. Second being unemployment. Three being poverty. Four being mental illness and lack of needs services, and the fifth being substance abuse and lack of needs services. It is projected, I've read several reports, it's projected that we may have as much as a 40% increase in homelessness. And last year alone, we had almost 600,000 within the United States. Within Chicago, we had about 11,000. I mean, in Illinois, we had about 11,000. So this is something, as you said, that can touch anybody. You could lose your job and not be able to afford where you live and
Mhm.
end up in poverty and not have an option of, maybe you have no relatives or, very little family and you're new to the city and you've started over and you've lost your job. You just never know. So, the circumstances are real. It could happen to just about anyone. And, I think it's really important that we take the time to search our hearts and give back, try to be a part of the solution.
Exactly. Saw that in the clip too. Did you see the napkin
Yeah, I
that
did.
said
I
if you
loved
change?
it.
Right,
That was
right.
great. Can I
Is
steal it?
yeah, it's yours, all of it.
All
That's why
right.
I was
Thank
trying to
you.
put things in there to give you a hint that I'm going to come back and reformat it so that you can
Thank you.
use it. Hopefully, right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
loved
my
it.
donation. Now,
Thank you.
there's so much ground to cover. There really is. Thank you for those five top reasons.
Mhm.
I want to speak to you in the audience. Those of you who are watching live, thank you so much, and those of you who later will be watching the replay. Um, I want you to think about something for a second. If you live in a home, okay, like what I'm getting at is we need to start looking at homelessness just like we do any other minority,
Yes.
because homelessness is a minority. It truly is. It is a separate group of people who don't have access to a lot of the things that the majority does. Let's just put it that way. Their voice, the volume knob doesn't go up as high, doesn't go up as loud. Now, I want you to think about it. Now, if you live in the suburbs and you go, okay, I live in the suburbs, most likely you pull your vehicle into a garage, okay? Um, but do you remember when you didn't live in the suburbs and you lived in a city or someplace and you moved to that? There's a reason you're where you're at and not where you were.
Right.
You remember how more safe you felt. If you live in a home somewhere but you don't have a garage, you have to park on the street. What you do to lock your car and not leave things, all the things you go through to keep that car safe, as safe as you can within your control. Think about that. Now, what if you don't have a car and you're living in a city? And in order to get somewhere to groceries, you have to Uber or walk or get a ride or whatever, or take public transit. Think about how that is. And what if you live somewhere where they don't have public transit? How much more difficult it is to get the same sorts of things. If you really break it down, it's like that Kevin Bacon 7 degrees thing.
Hmm.
You can see that there was a time in your life where you were where you are not any longer. I want you to think about that moment and how you felt when you grew or were blessed into where you are today. Because Brian and I, when we go downtown, especially when we go over to visit some of my family on the, hey, what side of town is that we go to when we go visit my family? Is it west or south? South, south side of Chicago. And there's those viaducts and stuff, and they're
Hmm.
right underneath it. And the street is right there. And not only are you like, oh, it's winter. How do they do it? Um,
Hmm.
and you see all the stuff. What if somebody came and said, get up and move? Look at all that stuff. And you just think it looks like garbage or trash or nothing that somebody just leave. But oftentimes, this is their lives. These are their lives inside of these carts, bags, boxes, what have
Yes.
you. Now, and who hasn't seen the person walking down the middle of the street when you're trying to find your way to the on ramp to get back to where you live, pushing all their stuff? So, my question is this:
Hmm.
is the people that are out there, have they talked to you about, how do they become comfortable? I'm scared. I have to make sure all the windows are locked and that the screen door is locked, that the slider is locked when we go to bed. Now imagine if you're how do you sleep peacefully when the world is driving, walking, living 24 hours a day right here?
Okay.
How do
So
they feel safe?
they don't actually. There's always an undertone feeling that there are things that belong to them, are going to be taken. Number one, there's the fear that they're going to be asked to leave wherever it is that they're temporarily residing. Number two, they don't know if their neighbors that are up the sidewalk or down the park bench are going to steal from them, or someone else is going to come along. So anytime they go out and they try to find work or something to eat, or if they have the good fortune to be able to shower, which is an absolute luxury, especially right now, they're constantly afraid that their things are going to be taken. And some of them that I've talked to, they'll have like a little system where someone will stay and sort of watch, the area. There's a place I call Tent City, which is off the 290 in Roosevelt, and there's a gentleman there that I met that he sort of is the coordinator of the area. So he sort of they've sort of set up a system where someone will go out and get certain needs, and someone will stay behind and watch. And so in many of the areas that I've gone to that are heavily populated, they have a little system in place, but there's always a fear that their things are going to be taken, and it's all they have in the world.
Wow. A lot of
Yeah,
logistical coordination.
yeah.
And wow.
I mean, these are
Okay.
not these, these are people like you and I. They've had professions, they've lived life, they have dreams, they have aspirations, they have talents. So they're not just a nobody. These are people that, think like you and I do. So of course
Hmm.
they're naturally going to think about their things, and they're going to try to set up a system that protects themselves, or a system to get whatever it is that they need. It's just survival of the fittest.
I was when you were talking about the system they have, and that again, this is just really triggering for me. I'm really shocked. I didn't expect this morning. That's Alexa in there telling me my COVID reminders. Get up and stretch. Go for a
Yeah.
walk. To remember, she even told me the other day where hand sanitizer was on sale.
Right.
Right. I didn't even ask her. She just butts in now and starts talking.
Costco.
Scary.
Costco.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So listen, I was thinking about a time when I was homeless, another time other than the car one, because I had a 14-year drug addiction, and
Mm.
I fall into one of those top five categories. And I remember I was in a trailer with three other people, and it was Christmas, and we actually for Christmas dinner we ate condiments, spoonful of mayonnaise, a spoonful of mustard. The relish was high commodity, high end. That was the turkey.
Mhm.
The relish because you could chew it. I know it sounds funny, but it really was. You got way more relish than I do, that sort of thing. So never does a family gathering go by where you're bowing your heads, you're giving thanks. But secretly inside my world, I'm seeing that, and I'm praying for those people. Hopefully they're still alive, and hopefully they've moved forward. But I think about those who are somewhere else, living that same reality. And let's talk about that reality. You shocked us. You shocked me. I tried to hold it back,
What I
but
should do what?
when you said whether they're out trying to find work. See, because a lot of us, because of judgment and this and the other, assume that they don't care about that. And here's another thing. I know that some of them get benefits and they have to maintain a PO box or whatever.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
what do they tell you? Do they have plans to get out of that current situation? And it seems like it's near impossible, because how do you save when everything you have has to be watched all the time? All these different things. You can't bathe. If you go looking for a job, do you look and smell and feel like the kind of person somebody wants to hire? We need to do better.
So I'll give you an example of two people. Paul is in that one community with the tent and the picture that you've seen of the two, and there's a
Okay.
gentleman in another location. Paul, every time I pass by with water or food, he's so gracious, he's so kind, he thinks of the people in his area. He was one of the ones that jumped in on cleaning up. And he says to me, "Thank you, God bless you. This is a blessing," all of those wonderful things. But he says, "Do you know anyone that's looking for someone that can do handiwork? I have two hands, do great labor. Unfortunately, I'm a felon." He has tattoos all over his body, not his face. And he says, "I'm judged by it, and I cannot find a job. Like you mentioned, I do not have a PO box. I do not have an address. It's very difficult. I'm out there searching. No one wants to hire me. That's one issue. Another gentleman up the road, I walked up and I had to stop back because immediately I wanted to say, wow, he's shaving. He doesn't look like what people think is homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take the judgment out of it. And he's explaining to me his situation as well. He's really articulate. He has some great skills. They tried to take advantage of him. He details and specializes in, detailing cars. And because of his situation, they know his circumstances, they wanted him to work for nothing. And he said, I can't do that. I have to eat. So there are a lot of scenarios that are happening that we don't think of. We think they don't want to work. They're just there because they want to. That's not always the case. They're out there trying to hustle or trying to work, to survive. They want to be a part of society. And unfortunately, with the unemployment rate and the onset of COVID, it's increasingly difficult for these people.
Wow. And let's talk about that. But let's go into that. Let's talk about there was a spot in one of your videos where you were talking about the trash situation. And that's something we never think of. The ordinary everyday person driving past these situations, we don't think or it would even fathom that they would care about it being clean because we think it's just a piece of sidewalk to them, but really it is their home and you said pride in, and so you don't have to own a home just to have pride in your home, or of your home.
Yeah, no.
Right?
No, you're right. That's something that you already have inside. There in that video, I had taken a picture across the street where there's one trash can. And I'm thinking of solutions while I'm helping these guys bag up. I'm thinking, who can I call? I started calling the city, 311. I eventually got through to some people and got the trash picked up. But the point is, I said, where do I put this trash so that the local businesses do not turn up their nose and disturb where these people are trying to survive? And I said to this Paul gentleman, let's put it across the street where the trash can is. He said, no, we can't do that. People walk there. We want to live here. And that's where the whole pride came in. And we take pride in our area. So let's just leave it here and we will pray. He says to me, we'll pray and figure out a way to get this trash picked up so that we can stay here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where's the trash now?
The city came and picked it up. I made a couple of phone calls. My big thing, Loren, is to offer solutions, and I'm having the wonderful blessing of being able to partner with people like yourself and others. So I asked someone that has a phone number to the alderman, and I made a phone call, and that turned into another phone call, and then we got the trash picked up. And through that, I made a connection, with someone that says, if you have any issues in these areas, please let me know. And oh, by the way, I'd like to see if we can get them a portable potty and a sink, like I've seen in some areas.
Wow.
So these relationships that I am, working on are enabling short-term solutions, for these people that have needs.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Now, I am going to pop something up on the screen right now that describes exactly what I thought when I was watching the one thing. Somebody moved something, one of those bags, and a rat ran out across the street.
So that was one rat of probably about 6 or 7 that were the size of a cat. And
I saw it.
They were freaked out. These big guys ran. I stood there and I said, oh my goodness. I was thinking on the inside, this is terrible. But I didn't want to show it because I wanted them to have courage in what they were doing. And that's just in one area underneath a mattress that had built up for months. That's
what
they
I'm
were
saying?
sleeping next to.
Woof, woof. Oh, I need my church fan for that one. I'm not getting you. Ooh. Okay. Okay. So let's switch gears. We know that there's an issue. We know that there's a challenge. Now, I'm a firm believer that in order to be a blessing, you first need to see a blessing. And that starts when we look in the mirror in the morning, and it also starts and continues when we look at situations that speak to our conscience. When we're driving past something, when you feel that nagging, that I know this has happened to people because it's happened to me. When I saw a family at an entrance to a Target out by the street, and I saw all their bags, and I saw the sign, and I saw the stroller, I saw the baby. Just a couple weeks ago, coming out, and I saw a Spanish woman. It was hot, like 90 something, and she had this big old fat baby. I mean, he was fat, his little legs and stuff. So I was like, well, good. And she didn't care. And she said she had a sign. She goes, it's hot. My baby needs to be fed in about 2 hours. I have nothing for him. And she had everything open so you could see she wasn't hiding. It was just amazing. And it didn't take anything for the communication to go between the two of us when I handed her the money. And that day I did give her a 20. About all of it. Like, I see you, I'm not judging you. And she goes, and I thank you. And thank you for making me feel okay. And not, I mean, a lot passed between us just like that, more than just the currency. So we're going to take a 1 minute break, and we're going to come back because I want to find out from you, how do you deal with the fear of going there? Because even in good times, it's the kind of a place where people aren't that comfortable going, getting too up close and personal, but particularly so, I would imagine, during this pandemic and the onslaught of COVID-19. Now, I mean, my husband and I, we're very particular about where we'll eat out now. We're still, it's got to be outside in most places, or we're the only ones in there and the food people. With our masks and this and the other, but you're out there, and I want you to, when we come back, talk about what they're doing to protect themselves from COVID-19. It has to be at a modicum, just a little bit harder for them. Hand sanitizer, we can just reach and grab, squirt, squirt, no big deal. Where's my mask? Blah, blah, blah. Don't want this one, get a new one. Order it or get a box of them. I want us to talk about what you're seeing out there and how they're dealing with it, and how are they able to keep themselves safe, if you're okay with that. So that's what we're going to get into next. We'll be back in just a moment. I beg you, don't go away. Okay, good morning. We're back with my guest today, Philip Brown, the founder of a wonderful movement here in the Chicagoland area, taking a bite out of, no pun intended, some of the challenges of our homeless. And the project is
Love Offering Chicago.
You just make it sound so much better when you say it. Love Offering Chicago. And I wanted to after this, I'm just giving it to you now so you can go right into it. Your needs list. I want you to, after you tell us about the COVID situation out there, how they're keeping themselves safe and how we can help to make it easier for them, go into things that you could use. And then we're going to talk about where people can send those things or how they can get involved to help add some vertebrae to the spine of this mission of yours. So take it away, Phil.
Ask me your question again. I'm sorry, Loren.
Tell us what it's like out there about COVID.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Is it, are they conscientious of it? And then also after you do that, and then tell us how we can help you.
When I started making kits, I immediately thought about COVID because of how I feel about it and my interaction with people other than the homeless. And masks, sanitizer, and gloves are essential. So I'm thinking, well, that has to be essential for them. Let me make some kits and provide that with some other toiletries. And I wondered, do they use it? Are they interested in it? And I'll tell you, when we did that cleanup, these guys put their mask on. They asked for gloves because they didn't have any. And after we were finished, I watched and I observed they had hand sanitizer and sanitized their hands when they took their gloves off and their arms a little bit. So from my experience, there is a consciousness out there with the homeless about protecting themselves, just like we do with us that are fortunate within our four walls when we leave the house. So they're definitely they're conscious of it in their health, and they want to survive. And good morning, sis. They want to survive and make it, just like we do. It's an issue and it's a concern, and those details, Loren, those details are important to me. When I make a lunch or whatever, I like to think of the details, including mustard and mayonnaise. But beyond that, when I'm trying to provide something that they need, and I might have limited resources, I will try to think of those details, like the hand sanitizer and the common sense things to me.
Now, that's why I chose that section of the clip. When I loved it, when you had the bag up and you kind of twirled it around so that we could see the contents. And and every time I rolled it back, I saw something I didn't see before: the comb, the purple comb, the mask, the roll of TP. Because I was like, man, I remember when I was sitting out in front of the Jewel at 5:30, waiting for them to open at 6, so I could go in there and get toilet paper. And I went back and forth. I was paranoid back then. I switched outfits and everything, put on sunglasses in case they were like, hey, weren't you just in here? Seriously. But so much toilet paper that we're not even out of it yet. And I bought another 12-pack last night when I went grocery shopping just because. But what about those people that they don't have the money to buy that? So I love that. Thank you for jarring my mind into or out of complacency, because that's exactly what it was. Complacency.
Just real quick, Loren, on that. I can't take credit for that comb and the toilet paper. I did think of it. But as this started to develop and I started posting on Facebook, I had friends that reached out and said, what could I do? Some people, like Marcella, just provided combs and wipes naturally. So when we're thinking of helping someone in this situation, if you take it upon yourself, just think about how you would feel and what you think you would need in a situation like that. And you can't go wrong. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're giving from your heart and you're thinking about it, just think about how you would feel in that situation.
That's a great point, because I challenge all of you. See, I was put in that position at the top of the hour because I had a memory of it. So, that's the thing about having the conversations. We are remembered. It's like this highlighter is being remembered to the cap. We are remembered to that time in life. That's why you went through stuff, not so you could carry oh, shame is me, and be ashamed to admit it. I could have kept my tongue intact, and I didn't have to tell you about me sleeping in the back of the car. I didn't have to tell you about any of that. But you know what? The healing never ends. And it means that now that I've been healed from that situation, it's still not over. The healing is still there, because every time I tell it to someone else, the healing gets passed forward, because that's what hope is. It is a healing.
Loren, You're right. I am one of those statistics too. I was partially homeless, kicked out of my house, but I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict, and it's by the grace of God, that I didn't
See?
take my life 2 years ago, and because of that, I opened myself up to my higher power, which is God, and I let Him in my life to
Mm-hmm.
transform it, and that's why I have such a passion for the homeless and the displaced, because I'm just like them. They're my
Right.
brothers and they're my sisters. And how can I possibly walk by a sidewalk or drive and not help them when I've been so fortunate through the grace of God to be where I am now?
That's right. That's right. And I never, and I mean it. I know y'all thinking whatever. I don't care. I'm just saying it like it is. I never, again in my existence, want cataracts, emotional, spiritual cataracts on
Yeah,
my entire world about things that, because you know what? I don't ever want to forget. I don't ever want that feeling to be dulled. I don't ever want that reflection when I think back and I remember to it to not make me tear up a little, because the tear doesn't have to be for me because I'm not there any longer. The tear should be for those who are there now and those who are on their way to it. That's what makes me step out and say what I need to say when it needs to be said. And if more of us did that, I think we would do, that is just as important as the bags and the resources, the
that's
stories
right.
and the examples of this. You are better than this. You are bigger than this. You are stronger than this. Trust me, I was there. I tell people
We're
all the time, go ahead.
we're living in an uncertain time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many wonderful and sadly unfortunate causes like Black Lives Matter, Homeless Lives Matter, all types of things. There's so much destruction and hatred in our in our world, and it's because there's a lack of love and, you know, as far as I'm concerned, some type
Mm.
of godliness. But there's a lack of love, which is what God is all about. So when we take the time to put aside our differences and think about our neighbors, the ones that are suffering, not just the stuff, we are all going through some type of suffering in our own way. But when we take the time to think about someone else's suffering, not only is it healing for ourselves and healing for that person that we're extending the love to, but you never know who is watching and who wants to be a part of that movement. You never know.
Excuse me. Thank you for that. I'm sitting up here. You got a few minutes left right now on your screen. You see the Gmail where you can continue this dialogue with Philip and Love Offering Chicago at loveoffering@gmail.com. Let's talk about your needs list. And let's just say when you go out to the area that we featured in the clip, how many people average live there?
So the clip is only 6 people, but there are areas that I go where there are 30 to 40 people in Chinatown and 51 and State and a little further south in Chicago and Sacramento. And I'm now branching north to Logan Square. And in that
Okay.
particular area in Logan Square, there was about 15 people. So there are a lot of people in
Okay.
each area.
So the next time I find myself in a dollar store, what can I get? What can I spend a 20 on or a 40 on or whatever's good for my pocket? What can I spend it on and get it to you that is something that is on your needs list, your wish list?
So these folks need things like wipies. They don't have the ability to shower, so they need wipies, soap, shampoo, sanitizer, gloves, masks, toothbrushes, toothpaste. It is a luxury, but it would be wonderful to have things like mouthwash, all
Mm,
the things that we use every day, soap, toilet paper, socks, and underwear. Those things can be purchased at, dollar stores and discount stores.
okay.
They need all of those type of basics just to be moderately comfortable
Okay.
and safe.
So, what's on the screen right now, the Gmail, is the best way for people to reach out, continue the dialogue, find out where to bring or ship their contribution to the cause and to the mission. And I'm going to put something together. I'm going to keep showing your promo all week, along
Thank
with
you.
this Gmail, to encourage people to be a part of the solution and not just stand and be an observer, a conscientious observer, if you will, of the problem. That is the problem. Just looking. It's time to start doing. So, in a nutshell, this is your Jerry Springer final thought moment. If there were one thing that you would hope that all of us who are watching and that will watch this would take with us, put it in our spiritual pocket, if you will, and keep it close. Even if we forget everything else, what would that one thing be? Oh, and Shara says, can you list the fundraising page?
Yeah, that's on Facebook. If you go to my Facebook on Love